he might go, he might disappear. They might send him off back to Spain. Hey guys, welcome back to another week of the Premier League predictions. The title race only has 7 points in it, and there's about 4 teams in it. This is going to be the most exciting title race we've seen in a while. It's very surprising to see Chelsea in this situation, but it is fully deserved, and this week's matchups are going to be a big impact on how the Premier League title race continues going on forward. Everton versus Liverpool is the first game we're going to talk about. Everton did very good last game, and Liverpool did pretty bad to okay in their previous game. Liverpool managed to get a tie against Newcastle, and although Newcastle was the one that scored the last minute goal to tie it up, I do think Liverpool were the luckier side to end up the game with a draw. I think the first half Newcastle was a lot better, and Liverpool managed to pick it up in the second half, but again, Liverpool needs to rely on more players than just Salah. Salah seems to be breaking them out of trouble whenever they have it, and if they have any injury to Salah, I'm worried for how this team's going to look without him. Everton did score 4 goals, but 2 of them were own goals on the Wolves team, and they didn't look all that great. On paper they looked good, 4 goals, four goals, clean sheet, it looks good, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to replicate this against Liverpool. I know this is like a big derby for them, but I just don't think that this Liverpool team is going to be able to slow down against Everton. They did against Newcastle, who is a better team, but not against Everton. So I'm predicting this to be a 0-2 win to Liverpool. The next game is Aston Villa against Southampton. And again, when I say that this week, this will be the easiest matchup to predict because it has Southampton included. Aston Villa had a pretty dominant display last game, and on the other hand, Southampton just looked abysmal in front of that Chelsea side, who managed to put 5 goals behind them. So I don't see much of a difference. I don't think they'll improve over the course of 3 days. So I predict Aston Villa to win, and they're going to win 3-1. The next game is Brentford versus Newcastle. We all know Brentford is a very good team, and they have been doing a lot of goal scoring, and they have been able to control games at home a lot better off than they have when they are away. And Newcastle, on the other hand, just came off a pretty good game against Liverpool, and like I said before, they were unlucky not to win it. But this game is away, it's at Brentford, and I think it's going to be a completely different outcome because I don't think this Newcastle team will be able to replicate how good they did against Liverpool. This is one of the teams that fluctuates a lot, and I just don't see them keeping up this momentum. So I'm predicting a draw, and it'll be a 2-2 at that. The next game is City against Crystal Palace, and I don't think things are going to change much for either team. I think Crystal Palace did good to get that win against Ipswich last game, but it was only a 1-0, even though they were comfortable with it. And like I said, last prediction, I said City would get their win against Forest to kind of get their momentum going a little bit forward. But I still don't think that this team is completely changed, although it did look significantly better with De Bruyne playing in. Bernardo looked a little bit more competent, having somebody to take away like the decision-making from him. And I don't know, Crystal Palace has always been somewhat of a fluky team for City. I do remember in those recent seasons that they do struggle against Crystal Palace, but I don't necessarily think that'll be the case this time. I think it'll be more of a comfortable win for City, and I think they'll win 2-0. Next game is United against Forest. United were beaten by Arsenal 2-0, and they were 2 corner kick goals, but they are goals nonetheless, and United need to be doing better defensively on set pieces, which has been a weakness for them for not just this season, but set pieces have been a weakness for United for as long as I can remember. Although United were defeated, they looked fairly dominant in the first half, in my opinion. They never lost possession, they were in control majority of the game, and Arsenal never really had any threatening chances. And to be honest, in my opinion, Arsenal never really had any threatening chances besides corner kicks. And that's what I was saying last week. Arsenal set piece FC. Like, it is what it is. United should need to do better in those situations. And then Forest lost 0-3 to City. And although I didn't think that they would lose as bad as they did, I thought they would get at least a goal in. They weren't able to perform up with City. And like I said, Forest has been a declining team. So I do favor United being at home, and I think they'll win 2-1. Fulham against Arsenal is the next game, and again, I just don't think until all the teams start getting used to Arsenal's set-piece techniques, I just think that they're going to win a lot of games against the lesser teams because of these tactics. And I like that comparison that they made that Arsenal's the new Southampton because, in my opinion, this is a very bad way to win, but it wins you games and there's nothing illegal about it. So I don't like to see it, but you have to admit that it's somewhat impressive how consistent they are with it. So because they beat United, they're in a bit of a run. Fulham just beat Brighton as well, and that was a pretty impressive game in of itself. But I don't think they're going to be able to beat Arsenal the same way that they managed to beat Brighton. And I think Arsenal has a slight edge against Fulham, so I do give it to them, and I think they're going to win 2-1. Ipswich vs Bournemouth is the next game. Ipswich lost to Crystal Palace 1-0. Bournemouth beat Spurs 1-0. They're both in similar situations, and both teams are capable of pulling up an upset whenever it is necessary. In this case, I do think Bournemouth is the stronger team. Ipswich continues to be the underdog in these games. They're trying, they're doing good, but they just can't see it over the finish line because of the difference in quality of these teams. So, in that case, I am predicting Bournemouth to win 2-1. Brighton versus Leicester is the next game. Brighton just lost 3-1. Leicester just won 3-1. Leicester looking pretty good. Van Nistelrooy is doing really good for them. And I think they have a decent chance of actually not relegating, I think. They might come like 17th, 16th, but I'm curious to see how good Van Nistelrooy does in this new position considering it's his big first managerial job. Brighton, on the other hand, looked fairly poor against Fulham. They didn't look like the typical Brighton that you expect to see. And for that reason, I do think that this game will be a little bit more even than you would initially anticipate, 2 weeks prior. So I'm predicting this game's going to end in a score of 1-1. How against Chelsea is the next game, and I think this one will be fairly interesting. Spurs, it's like I said, they just are so unpredictable with how you think they're going to do. They lost last game, and before they beat City, I said in my prediction that they would win slightly, but they lost. The Spurs team is just unpredictable, and you don't know what to expect from them. And Chelsea has been really good. Chelsea have looked dominant. They scored 5 goals this last game. So my plot twist of the week is that Spurs is going to pull up an upset, and I don't think they'll win, but I think they're going to manage to get a draw against this Chelsea side, and I think the game's going to end 2-2. Last game of the week is West Ham versus Wolves. West Ham looked okay. Wolves looked poor due to the 2 own goals. I do think that the scoreline was a little unfair, but they need to do better in these situations, and they did get 2 own goals, and that's a fact, so you can't really change that. West Ham conceded 3 against Leicester. Looked okay, I guess. Not really. They look their typical self. There's nothing special about this West Ham team at the moment. Lopetegui, again, thin ice. Don't know what he's doing this week. He might go. He might disappear. They might send him off back to Spain. And I don't know if a draw is going to be enough to do that, but that's what I'm seeing this game out as. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, and both teams will be lucky to take that, I guess. That concludes this week's predictions. Let me know what you guys think. Again, some of these results, I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic because in football, you never really know what's going to happen. Somebody beats somebody out of nowhere. So I'm going to try to include those type of situations a little bit more often. And yeah, you might not agree with them, but let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time.